Well, you always like to start the live stream of a podcast, of the recording of a podcast, with breaking news. At least it happened before we got started here today. Remember, if you catch us via the podcast, you can be a part of the conversation, be a part of the stream. Got a lot of people lined up in the chat room. We do it Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Central. Make sure you're a part of it. Breaking news. Jeff Passan, the first to report that the Royals are putting together a multi-year deal with Seth Lugo, and now Jon Heyman has updated it 2 years, $46 million with a vesting option for a third year. Did the Royals get it right with signing Seth Lugo? We'll talk about that. What are they getting at this age? Kris Bubic has gone to the IL. Does this equal selling? Well, not selling Seth Lugo now. You can say that. JJ Picollo talked about the trade deadline. He didn't sound like a buyer or a seller, just said they want to get better. We'll see if we can figure out what that means. Is getting a draft. Hang on, I can eliminate that one. Is getting Lugo. Hold on. Delete. Let me take that. Yes, that part's obsolete on the rundown, Randy. You are correct. Who takes Bubic's spot in the rotation? Noah Cameron continues to pitch like a rookie of the year. Hoffman for Grichuk. Hunter Harvey is back. Maybe we'll even get into Jack Caglianone getting on the IL now. Does that have anything to do with the fact that he's running around in the outfield? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. We are off and running here on what has become an even busier Sunday night with the Kansas City Royals. They take 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians. They've been making deals. Randal Grichuk's a Royal. And now we know Seth Lugo is going to remain a Royal for a couple more years. I'm sure a very strong no trade clause in there as well. Rany, let's just start right there. What's your reaction to the latest news?
Well, my reaction is I'm grateful that this time the news broke 10 minutes before we went on the air, not 10 minutes after, even if it means you and I had to scramble to completely just, throw everything out the window that we had prepared for the show. So be it. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my prep for the podcast was talking about the different moves that the Royals made this weekend, obviously trading for Randal Grichuk, and it looks like they're buying, and then finding out that Kris Bubic is out indefinitely and probably for the year, which would make you think they're sellers. And then weighing how does that impact the two options they had with Seth Lugo? Hold on to him and go for this year and take the draft pick, or sell him and get prospects, in the next 4 days. And then JJ presented to us door number 3, which is neither, and just keep him around for 2 more years. I mean, the first thing I want to say is just credit to JJ and the Royals for kind of managing to get this done under deadline, because obviously, it's not a coincidence this was pulled off on July 27th when they had a very major decision to make about Seth Lugo's future in the organization by July 31st. And, reading, you didn't have to be an expert tea leaf reader to understand that the Royals wanted to keep him, right? We knew that they loved Seth Lugo. They love him here. But if you can't keep him past this year, the question was, are you better off trading him now or letting him go in 2 months, but hopefully, having a playoff run with him? So the fact that they got this done is impressive in the sense of the timing. And also just it means that John Sherman and the Royals are willing to spend money to retain a premium free agent. We're not talking about, Juan Soto here. This is not maybe Bobby Witt in 5 years, but Seth Lugo was one of the most highly coveted pitchers on the trading market at the deadline for a reason. And the fact that the Royals are able to keep their own, maybe they can't outbid other teams for other premium free agents yet, but this is we're all kind of caught off guard by this because we're just not used to the Royals. I mean, you started the show by referring to the Chiefs because this is the thing the Chiefs do. Yeah, we know the Chiefs can spend money to retain their premium free agents. Not used to the Royals doing it. So kudos to them for just managing to get this done. My initial thought, 2 years and $46 million. The money is about what I'd expect, maybe even a little less, $23 million a year, but getting him for 2 years without committing for that third year is a vesting option. So he'll get a third year if he stays healthy, but that's, I think, a reasonable ask on the Royals' part. Not having to commit for 3 years if he ends up getting hurt. I think it sounds like a very reasonable contract. And I think it's a good one for the Royals. So I'm pretty happy right now.
Yeah, I think overall most people are pretty pleased. Royals with JJ and Q are never going to be bottom feeders. Bold prediction for the next decade. I hope you're right. I mean, I think there could be a time where, they, for lack of a better term, empty the clip on a season and they do have to reload. But it is clear with the comments, and I'll just read it right now. It was like one of the points on down. This is JJ over the weekend. Andy Rogers reporting from MLB.com. I don't think we're buyers or sellers. I think we're in the business of getting better. I think we have a good team right here. We believe in a lot of the guys that we have. We're starting to see signs of the offense kind of coming to life, which is really what's been missing all year. I think we just got to be open-minded to different ways to make our team better. That was after the Randal Grichuk acquisition was made. And, look, I've said all along, for me, I would sell. June 15th, I was ready to sell. I would still sell. I don't know if I would have done this deal because I've lost a major trade piece. But but what we are seeing is consistency, which is what I did say. That if you're going to say anytime we've got a shot, we're going to go for it. Okay, just make sure you do it every time, right? That is a noble idea. I don't know that it's always the right idea. I'll mention, next year comes around. I mean, this idea that you're somehow valiant because you go for it every year. If it's at the cost of, your franchise not being as good next year, I don't know how much nobility there is in it, right? So I do want to be clear. There are going to be times I think the Royals are going to need to sell because they're a small market team that can't just buy their way past mistakes. The trade deadline is an opportunity for the Royals to acquire assets, right? To make their team better, whether that's now or in the future. And so, I have mixed emotions here, but I can't knock them for trying to win. And I certainly can't knock them for locking him up. If they were given hey, if you're going to trade me, I ain't never coming back. But if you want me, then sign me because I like it here. Well, then I think, they did the right thing because they need Seth Lugo. Because I'm going to give you some other news. One, I spoke with some folks. Michael Lorenzen, still 2 to 3 weeks out. Cole Reagans, 3 to 4 weeks out. Kris Bubic, of course, way too early, no timeline whatsoever. So, and when you're that far out on the guys that you have signed, Cole Reagans and Kris Bubic, who knows what the end verdict is going to be? Can you imagine 2 rotator cuffs and you get away with both of them just needing a little rest and they're both fine? Like, that just doesn't usually work that way. And both of them have an injury history, unfortunately. So locking up some pitching, not a bad thing if you want to be a competent ball club over the next couple of years. And who knows how much ownership is going to spend. But Jeff Passan speculated on 3 for 75 would be what it would take if Seth Lugo got to the open market. 2 for 46 with a vesting option, which means he has to pitch well for that third year to kick in. And I'm guessing it's probably similar money. You thought maybe a little bit less because he's starting to get older. Maybe it's 20 million or something like that. It's not going to be 5, right? I mean, I think you got to like this all around, right? It may not be the path that I would have taken, but I can't disagree. I can't hate this move.
Yeah, I've been whipsawed back and forth this weekend because just when it looked like the Royals may, they had an emotional walk-off win yesterday, in the first game of the doubleheader, but it also looked like Caglianone might be going on the IL. And then we get the news that they're going for it with Randal Grichuk. And then we get the news after the game that Kris Bubic, who looked terrible in the game, makes comments about how his shoulder is stiff, and it's been stiff apparently, but now it's more stiff. I went from, okay, maybe buying or maybe not selling is the right move to selling is absolutely the right move. I said this morning on Twitter, which I rarely comment anymore, but I just said, look, I admire, I understand why the Royals, added Frazier and added Grichuk, and they didn't necessarily give up a ton, but like, you have to face reality. Without Kris Bubic, it's not a matter of do you have assets to move or not? It's just a matter of, is your team good enough to win now? And it didn't seem to be like they're good enough to win now, so you might as well sell. But even throughout the day, and even as they went out and won the series, and now they actually had a very good week, which complicates things, of course, right? They went 4-2 against two competitive teams. They took 2 or 3 in Chicago against the Cubs and 2 or 3 at home with the Guardians. I thought about it some more, and I'm like, I could at least make the case, like if I'm JJ Picollo, I could make the case for not selling. And the case was, aside from Seth Lugo, who is it on this roster that if you did not trade them now, if you waited till the offseason, we're going to lose trade value? Like, if you don't sell now, the reason to sell now was 2 words. It was Seth Lugo. That's the guy to sell because he's a free agent at the end of the year. But aside from him, okay, Hunter Harvey's back. And that was exciting and intriguing because, if he pitches really well, he looked so good in April that if he looks completely healthy, maybe he's a trade piece as well. Of course, how much time do you have to really establish him to be a trade piece? He pitched for the first time today. The Royals have 3 more games. Unless he pitches back-to-back, which seems unlikely this early in his rehab process, he might get into 1 more game. So, how much is the team really going to be willing to even give up for Hunter Harvey where they've seen him on the mound twice since an injury that kept him out for 3 months? So there's Hunter Harvey. Okay, fine. Yes, you could maybe, he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. So he has more value now than he will in 3 months. Aside from that, I mean, Steven Cruz is not going to lose value. I think it's a cool idea to see what you can get for a reliever with 5 years of club control. He's still going to have 5 years of club control. So you don't have to make that decision now. Carlos Estevez, yeah, okay, maybe he'll have a little less club control, but he'll still have a club control for a year. And then the other guy we talk about that it would be a fun, interesting trade piece, Freddie Fermin. David Lesky made the really good point on Thursday's show that, like, catchers, you rarely see them moved mid-season because that's the one position where they got to learn a pitching staff. There's an adjustment period. And again, he's not a free agent. He's not going to be a free agent for like 4 more years. So he's not going to lose much value. So the argument for not selling is basically, if you keep Seth Lugo, you could, worst case scenario, you get the draft pick, which was not a small consideration. I mean, it was a top 30 pick, and I'm still kind of adjusting to the idea that they're not trading him, and they're not getting the draft pick. But like, that was a reason to hold on. Like, you had to get a good offer to give that up. But aside from that, everybody else you have under club control, you will still be able to trade at the end of the season. So I kind of see the point of, like, what's the reason of giving up on the season just to trade Seth Lugo if you can get him re-signed? Now it's like, okay, well, now I kind of see the point where if you don't trade Seth Lugo, there's so little you're going to gain Hunter Harvey, maybe you get something, Carlos, but you're probably not getting a top 10 prospect in somebody's farm system for any of the guys that you would trade now anyway. So maybe, especially with Bubic out indefinitely and Reagans and Lorenzen out for a couple weeks, maybe you just try and go for it the way the team is now. And worst case scenario, you have Seth Lugo under club control and a fair contract for 2026, which you really kind of needed because the pitching next year, they're losing Lorenzen. Bubic is going to be a free agent in a year, and we suddenly don't know what his availability is even for next year. So there are a lot of good reasons to keep Seth Lugo around right now.
I don't think you ever have to make an excuse or justify trying to win, right? I think it's more on those of us that would say, hey, this is the wrong move, to prove why it's wrong, to try to actually help your ball club. And, listen, again, this is not the act of a madman because you're 4 games out. And if you're deciding that you're not going to sell, and it sounds like, listen, this was clearly in the works. This didn't get done in 20 minutes after the game today. This has clearly been in the works, and that's been their mindset. And I'm okay I want to see how they're going to do it. I want to see if the checkbook's open. I think for a lot of, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Do you?
I don't, but their playoff odds are better now than they were when we spoke a week ago.
And they're wrong. I mean, seriously, do you believe that they're actually with now Kris Bubic? And I just told you, they don't even know on him. They're not even talking about a timeline. There's still 3 to 4 weeks on Cole Reagans. So we're basically talking late August to maybe September. And we're 2 to 3 weeks on Michael Lorenzen, right? So we can talk about who's going to replace Kris Bubic. Dallas Keuchel is the most likely name. And you're really going to have to hit because you're talking about you're just hoping to get 5 innings of 3-run ball with 2 of your starters, with Rich Hill and Dallas Keuchel. If you can get that, okay, we're still in the game. Lock it down, bullpen. Let's go bats. For a team that hasn't hit all year, starting to hit here of late, starting to get some things going, but they've got injuries there as well. Jack Caglianone is hurt. Nick Lofton is out. Just the depth piece. They went out and got Randal Grichuk because they had nothing but left-handed outfielders, right? So, again, there's nothing wrong with nobody has to justify. He does not have to hold – J.J. Picollo does not have to hold a press conference to say, hey, this is why I'm trying. Okay, he doesn't. It's up to people like me who are like, I would have sold, to explain why I think it's a different option. So I'm with you, but I hope they still have the means to acquire talent in the offseason. You're talking about the guys they could trade, but, I mean, do they suddenly have more payroll? No, they have less, right? So, have they filled any of the holes that they already had? No, they haven't. And I'm curious as to how that's going to happen.
These are all very good questions. I don't know if those questions are going to be answered on July 27th, regardless, though.
True.
And look, I still absolutely think it's a long shot that they're going to make the playoffs. I can't say though it's no shot. Right? The percentages, Fangraphs went from 8% a week ago to 12%, and I think that sounds reasonable after a 4-2 week. I mean, at some point, the calendar becomes your enemy, and we're getting close to that point now because for the Royals to go 86-76, which is what they did last year, right? And that probably is about what it's going to take to make the playoffs. 86 wins in the American League, once again, looks like it might be around the cutoff. They have to go 34-22. They have to play 600 ball for the next 2 months. That's not going to be easy.
No,
I'm not going to say it's impossible. They have some easy cupcakes on their schedule, and they also do have some games against the Rangers, I think the Red Sox and the Mariners, all teams that they are chasing ahead of them. So there is an opportunity, but 12% sounds about right. It's 1-8. That's not very likely.
Well, the good news is teams like the Braves are now becoming a bottom feeder.
Mm-hmm.
They're waving the white flag. They've got them for the next 3. Then 6 tough games, Toronto and Boston. I'll call them a like team in the Twins. So let's call it a competitive game. But then 3 with Washington, 3 with the White Sox, 4 with the Rangers, tough games, 3 with the Tigers, tough games, but 3 more with the White Sox, then 3 more with the Tigers. Angels, done. Twins. Now what you start wondering is what happens with the Twins and the Guardians, which they're looking
at September.
At
sometimes teams are just out of it.
Yeah.
And they're just running out of strength.
And they're looking at the Royals on their schedule at this point, wondering the exact same thing.
Exactly.
3 with the Phillies, 3 with the Mariners, 3 with the Blue Jays. That's a tough stretch. But then finishing up with the Angels and A's. So there are games, but they are going to need to be extremely effective against these bottom feeders.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely effective.
Because there's that 10-game stretch. There's a homestand right there in the middle of August where they play the Nationals and then White Sox. And then 4 against the Rangers, not an easy team, but that's one of the teams they're trying to get ahead of. That, to me, that 10-game stretch is their opportunity. If the Royals are trying to convince themselves, not just JJ, but Vinny and the clubhouse. If they're trying to be yeah, we can get in this thing, we can still make the playoffs. That's the stretch they look at and be like, we go 8-2 in there, and we're back in this because we're going to take a couple from the Rangers and we're going to beat up on everybody else, and we're going to be above 500, and we're going to be right there going into September.
All right. I want to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll get into do they actually add? Because I think one of the things we've talked about is just standing pat is not probably the right thing to do. Do we still agree with that? We'll get into that after you hear from our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have the confirmed details from Andy Rogers on the contract. Do you want me to go over those?
Yeah, let's have that. Let's do that.
Source confirms Seth Lugo's extension is worth a guaranteed $46 million for 2 years. But this part's interesting, the way it's broken down. $20 million in 2026, $20 million in 2027. Vesting option is worth $20 million, or a club option for $17 million. And then he gets a $3 million signing bonus today.
Okay.
And he has a $3 million buyout on the option. So the way you get to $46 million is $3 million now, 20, 20, and 3, right? But so it's $46 million guaranteed the third year.
If the Royals pick it up, it's 3 for 60.
Maximum
is
3 for 60.
3 for 63.
I believe.
Yeah.
No. Well, actually, no. Hold on. Yes, you're right. 3 for 63 is the maximum. Exactly. So think about it, 3 for 63 max. I like this deal a little bit more than I did about 5 minutes ago. I mean, it's the money is reasonable. Yeah, he's getting a salary bump, but what you're talking about payroll, he's making $3 or $4 million more next year than he is right now. Like this should not preclude them from being able to do anything else that they want to do.
Yeah, no, I think you were going to be out looking to spend 15 plus on a pitcher anyway.
Yeah.
Because you don't have another answer in-house.
Put it this way, Michael Wacha's making 18. And we don't mind that. That contract's fine. It's fair. It's good. Lugo's making 20. I mean, yeah, Lugo's older and there is the risk of decline, but like Lugo is more than 10% better as a pitcher, or has been at least as a member of the Royals, than Michael Wacha. So whatever you think of Michael Wacha's contract, this is a better contract than that. And I don't think that's a bad contract. So this is genuinely, I think, a good contract for Kansas City.
If the Royals ever get to a point that they've got money to spend in free agency, I mean, are they kind of becoming a destination place? You've got 2 veterans that have been like, no, I like it here. I'm good. Like, I believe in what's going on. We know Bobby Witt Jr. helps.
Maybe for pitchers. I do wonder if the Brian Sweeney, like, you think about players do want to go somewhere where they can get better. And I want to see it happen with a hitter is my point. To say it's the organization as a whole, because I mean, look, Kansas City has a lot going for it for a certain type of player too, who doesn't want, big city drama, doesn't necessarily need to be, on billboards everywhere, but wants a good place to raise a family and also a competitive environment with fans that are supportive and come out for the team. But the question is that what's the draw here? Or is it also the fact that, like they made me into a better pitcher, in both of these guys' cases? But it certainly looks good for Kansas. It's certainly in a much better position than they were 3 or 4 years ago in terms of a free agent destination. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking here where their payroll number is. This will jump this by like 8. Are they at?
Are you looking at next year?
$95 million on the books for next year. Obviously, there's arbitrations and things like that, but
counting this contract.
Yes.
You have them at 75 before, so yes, around 95 even with that. Which, like you said, I mean, they've got a bunch of arbitration guys, and they'll probably get to 110 to 120 internally pretty easily. But they could probably add a quality, a $15 million a year free agent for next year from outside the organization. without significantly elevating their payroll. Like if their payroll goes up, 3 or 4%, there'll be room for another free agent, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And so the question is, I mean, if they could, I do like your point about will a bat sign here, right? It does look like it's a good landing spot for pitching, which is something that they need to keep in mind and have in their back pocket. Like if they do ever sell at the deadline, that like they can move a pitcher, but other pitchers are going to want to come here, and maybe you don't have to overpay to get them to come to play in Kansas City. If you can, if they can just come home above 500, starts to look like you're going somewhere, right? But they are, again, let's keep in mind, part of the reason they're doing this is there is no one ready to step in, right? Like, I mean,
there isn't, although I will say this, and we don't have to get too much into the details. Like Ben Kuderna may have had the best start of his professional career in the last week, where 6 innings.
Are we really taking one start? We're going to be like, no, it's all.
No. Again, I'm not saying he's ready, but especially with the success we saw with Noah Cameron this year, and something we'll get into. Like, I'm reaching that point though with the major league pitching development with Brian Sweeney and Zach Bover. I'm like, normally relying on a young pitcher to come up and be what you hope he will be. Young pitchers will break your heart, right? You don't expect that. But Noah Cameron has been better in the major leagues than we could have expected. Kuderna's probably still a year away. I'm just saying he's not ready now. My hope, though, is like if Bubic leaves in a year, maybe he's in a position to move. But I think for next year, Seth Lugo's addition to the rotation was an absolute necessity. Like if they could pull it off, they should have, and they did.
Yeah. So who is going to be in the rotation for Kris Bubic?
Yeah, let me get back to you on that one. So
I'll give you the top 3 candidates.
Well, the number one candidate is Off Day, right? That's still the best candidate, because like for this coming week, his spot in the rotation, he pitched on Saturday, so they would need somebody for Thursday, but Thursday's an off day, so they might not, like they already have Rich Hill probably pitching Tuesday this week. They might be able to. It's tricky because it was a doubleheader in there. But they might be able to get away without having to go to another bullpen day. Beyond that, though, yes, they're going to need at least 1 and probably 2 starts, not just from Rich Hill, but from, you said, Dallas Keuchel maybe, or
Thomas Hatch.
Yep.
Chandler Champlain. That's who you're looking at.
I mean, those are or bullpen day, right? Like, or Jonathan Bolin.
Yes, Jonathan Bolin may end up giving you as many innings if he can be effective. 2 and change might be about all you could get. But the bullpen days, part of the reason they've been successful is that they get some length out of the rotation. They always get 5+ innings. How many times this year have they not gotten 5 out of a starter? Not many.
Even Rich Hill, and I didn't. Last week I did not expect them to go 5 innings. I was hoping it would be like 2 or 3. He didn't pitch great, but it wasn't really his fault, honestly. I mean, the defense and offense, I guess, let him down. If I were a betting man right now, they signed Dallas Keuchel for exactly this reason. He's made 3 starts in Omaha and has not been terrible. I think their idea is just bring in somebody who will battle, and even if he doesn't have his best stuff, will not just fall apart at being in the major leagues. And Keuchel's probably that guy. So if it's for 2 or 3 starts, I think we're going to see Dallas Keuchel in the rotation.
I think that's what we're going to see as well, because like I said, we're still looking at 2 to 3 weeks before you get Michael Lorenzen back, right? Yep. And so someone's going to have to pitch. So do you go buy? Do you go buy a starting pitcher right now? Listen, JJ, if we take him at his word, I don't think we're buyers or sellers. We're just trying to look at how to make the team better. Okay, if you want to make the team better, you need a starting pitcher. Could they? I think he would argue, he bought you a starting pitcher today. He bought you Seth Lugo. He's not trading. Well,
right?
but they didn't get any better today.
Right. No,
by doing that.
They did not in 2025.
Right. My point is, could you find a Michael Lorenzen type that's a better option than Dallas Keuchel, where it wouldn't cost you?
Maybe. It's interesting because today we actually saw the Braves acquire Eric Fetty, who had been designated by the Cardinals for them. And you remember Eric Fetty because He was my guy coming over from Korea.
Apple of your eye.
Well, 18 months ago, and had a phenomenal 2024. He was excellent, legitimate number 2 starter last year. The White Sox had signed him and traded him to St. Louis, at the deadline. But has been bad and has been terrible in the last month or so. And I think they traded. I think it was a player or cash considerations, which means it's going to be cash. They didn't give up anything for him. And I looked at that. I'm like, Eric Fedde would be exactly that kind of guy. But you know what? I wonder if they looked at Eric Fedde and be like, no, he's not any better than our internal options. The Eric Fedde that's on the mound right now, that they may actually want to go above and beyond that. A Michael Lorenzen type is Michael Lorenzen last year when they traded for him was a caliber above where Eric Fedde is right now. Michael Lorenzen was not getting DFA'd before the Royals traded for him. And if you can give up the equivalent of Walter Pennington, they just give up Andrew Hoffman, who I'd like as a potential relief option, but if your upside is a reliever and not a closer, if your upside is a 7th, maybe 8th inning guy, you know what? That's a trade. You're almost never going to truly regret that move. So if they have another, maybe it's Jonathan Bolin. If they have if they can trade a guy of that caliber to get a starter, if you're really in for the season, that might be the move here in the next 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, again, I'm not, but if you want to be better, if you want to make the team better, maybe you do get somebody that's, if you had a plan in the offseason to go acquire another starting pitcher, I mean, you got to have a pretty good feel for what's going on with Cole Reagans. You got to have a pretty good feel for at least the start of where Kris Bubic was. I thought it was a good sign that he was at least in the dugout today. It wasn't like, oh my God, where is he? He's already in Alabama getting looked at by, a medical team. And maybe I'm reading too much into that. I have no idea, right? They don't have a timeline on him yet. But, I like if you're going to need another starting pitcher and you're going to be trading for one anyway, why not get after it now?
Well, especially if you have the faith that whoever you bring in, maybe you can make 5 or 10% better, even on the fly. Like when we talk about like exploring trade options, it's not just JJ who's looking at it. You need your pitching gurus to like look at not just video, but the data of these guys and be like, well, gee, his slider is his best pitch, but he only throws it 8% of the time. Why is that? Like, that sort of stuff you could fix immediately, not even changing a guy's mechanics, but simply changing his pitch selection. And suddenly you've got a better pitcher on your hands than the one you traded for. I have at least a little bit of confidence that if they do make a trade for a pitcher, they might there's a possibility that they'll make that guy better down the stretch than he was, before he got traded. So finding a guy like that, maybe whose batted ball data is also better than it looks. I mean, we haven't talked about the Grichuk acquisition yet, but one of the things about Randal Grichuk, his numbers are down this year from last year, although last year he was really good. And you may recall, he was the guy that I wanted when the Royals signed Hunter Renfroe. He was the guy I contrasted the 2 years and whatever, $15 million that Hunter Renfroe got. I'm like, Randal Grichuk just signed 1 year and $2 million. And like, they're the same player. Grichuk is I think a little older, but also might be better. Grichuk last year was great. This year he's been down, but the batted ball data on Grichuk is like, he's been hit into bad luck this year. His expected, weighted on base average is like 30, 35 points higher than it has been. He doesn't have to change much. He just needs better luck. So maybe they find a pitcher in that same category who's actually pitched, maybe better than the results are suggesting.
Well, somebody suggested Nestor Cortez, who's getting ready to make his 3rd rehab start. Where was it up here? Brady said there's a report that Nestor Cortez is available. I was just reading through because he's on my fantasy team. Of course. He's in his previous 3 rehabs has covered 12 1/3 innings. He has struck out 9, allowed only 1 run, 6 hits, 2 walks. So he's been effective in his rehab. He's got 1 more, and then you ready to go get you Nestor Cortez. I mean,
it's a little tricky because he's with the Brewers, who have one of the best records in baseball, but they might be they're in addition to the fact the Brewers are very transactional, like they don't really need him in their rotation. But it was just that is a complicating factor. Like they actually might be like, no, we want this guy in our bullpen. But it's a possibility. I know Jeffrey Springs, who's with the Athletics, that they're looking to move. Like there are many options out there. This is where getting this Lugo signing done today gives the Royals like 4 days to just do nothing in the front office, but explore every option for adding an arm in the rotation and potentially one more bat as well. I mean, I like the Grichuk signing or trade because even if he's a replacement level bat, and I think he's maybe a little bit better, but even if he is, he's worth much more than replacement level to the Royals, because the Royals replacement level is in the outfield is just horrible. And I think just mild competence from him will be a step up from anything they've had out there. But I think you pick up one more bat and then, like you said, maybe an arm, and do it without giving up, a top 10 prospect. At this point, I can almost see the case for it.
Will they platoon him or will they play him every day?
I think it's going to be something in between. I actually think, though, there's an opportunity for him to play every day. I mean, I think his bat, he hits lefties better, but it's like any other right-handed batter. It's not an extreme platoon split. He basically, he can hit right-handers. And, him, Isbell, and John Rave right now might be your best option to start on a regular basis. Obviously, Caglianone's on the IL, but at this point, don't you have to assume they're going to send Caglianone back to AAA just as a rehab assignment?
Yeah,
like,
just to get him going again.
It just seems like a no-brainer to me. Like, if he came right back, like, would you want him in the lineup even against a righty over Randal Grichuk at this point? I don't think I would. So I think Grichuk has at least 3 to 4 weeks of playing mostly every day. I mean, Nick Lofton will come back, but maybe.
Yeah, I think John Rave's improved play, improved bat. And hopefully it continues. Not 2 homers in every game, but hopefully he continues to hit. It gives you a little more time to be patient with Caglianone.
Exactly. You have those 2 guys in the corner. You have Isbell, you have Tyler Tolbert mixing in the here and there. When Nick Lofton comes back, he's still, you weren't playing him every day before, and we're assuming he'll come back completely healthy from his concussion in a week, but it might be a little longer. They may want to give him some time. So no, I think Grichuk fills a very a very key role in this team. They needed a right-handed bat, but more importantly, they needed a bat. And I think he qualifies not just as a right-handed bat, but as an actual bat, as an everyday hitter in their lineup. The defense, at his age, I'm not thrilled about him patrolling the outfield, but like, beggars can't be choosers. And if that's the biggest issue we have with him, I think that's okay. I'm willing to take that.
No, I think you're absolutely. I think that's a fair point. Let's take another quick break. We want to get into Noah Cameron as well. We'll talk about him after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. All right, let's talk a little Noah Cameron. We did this a little bit during the radio show this past week about just the prejudice against his lack of velocity. I did the odds of the American League Rookie of the Year, where he was like tied for 6th or 7th in the odds. He has more WAR than everybody except for Navarez. That included, at the time, Nick Kurtz, right?
Might have changed, but yes, I get
that's probably changed. But and I wrapped it up around Thursday. We brought it up several times during the course of the week, and I said to, I said there's, I'm not saying he should with Jeff Passan. I said I'm not saying he has to win it, but he should be in the top 3 right now. Right. Or he damn well better be getting votes. Right. And a significant amount. I can't believe that what he's doing. If he threw 100 miles an hour, he'd have started in the freaking All-Star game. He certainly would have been there based upon what happened with the local kid Mizorowski, like making it off just, 5 appearances. So, I just would like this kid. Do I think he's going to be anything more than a 4 or 5 starter? I mean, I don't want to put a limit on anybody, but probably not. I mean, that's just what, you just need a little more velocity to be more than that. But you cannot deny what he's doing now. It's about the rookie of the year, not who projects to be the best prospect for the long haul. And it's irritating me. It's a little bit of big market bias. It's a little bit of anti, the analytics don't say he's going to be a star. So everybody, I think, nobody wants an Angel Baroa or who was the DH that won it for the Royals?
Bob Hamlin.
Bob Hamlin. Oh, look, so we got it wrong. No, you didn't get it wrong. Bob Hamlin was awesome that year. He was the rookie of the year. He just, had a hole in his swing that they eventually found and he couldn't fix. Noah Cameron doesn't have to, win 150 games or be projected to win 150 games in the big leagues to win rookie of the year.
Soren, what if I told you that for all the talk about how, it doesn't matter if Noah Cameron is not, doesn't have the velocity to project to be a star, like he's pitching really well now. What if I told you maybe he does have the stuff to be like a really good pitcher for a really long time?
Because you're going to say he's going to add a little something the way Kris Bubic did?
No, but that'd be nice. But what I was going to say is when we talk about a guy being a quote unquote finesse pitcher, being, having below average velocity, I don't know if we have adjusted our standards enough to account for the fact that everybody in baseball throws harder now, right? So what we call a soft tosser today, like Noah Cameron, according to Baseball Savant, is 20th percentile in terms of fastball velocity. Mind you, 20th percentile for a starting pitcher is actually not that bad, right? For a left-handed starter, that is probably not that much below average. So let's keep that in mind too. Like, we think about crafty guy. We're talking about a guy who's successful like 10th percentile or less. But not only that, like you know what his average fastball velocity is?
I'm guessing it's like 90.
92.3.
Well, that's better than I would have thought.
Yeah, it's a little better than I thought, but also it's like that is below average though, right? But the reason for that is because the average fastball today is like 94 miles an hour. Noah Cameron, put him in a time machine. I'm not talking about like 100 years ago or 50 years ago or even like 1990. You take it back to 2008. He has an above average fastball. Like when I think of crafty lefties, you think of like Mark Burley. Mark Burley threw 87 on a good day. All right. Like,
yeah, I was trying to remember that. Was it that low?
Mark Burley at the end of his career, we actually have data like the last few years of his career. We have him on StatCast. He was down to 82, 83 average. Mark Burley was a marvel because he was effective at the end with like velocities. I mean, Kyle Hendricks was like is really the last finesse pitcher of, the last couple of years who was really operating at low velocity. He was around 87. And granted, Kyle was a right-hander. So in some ways, Kyle Hendricks is a marble too. But like, there's a difference between throwing 87 and throwing 82 or 80. I'm looking it up here. So if you go back to 2007 to 2015, this is Mark Burley. We have his data going back to 2007. His average fastball velocity year by year, 86.9, 86.4, 85.5. I'm not going to read every single number, but the last 2 years, 83.8, 83.9. But like at his peak, average fastball was 86 to 87. All right, 2007, 2008 was still close to his peak, the peak of his career. Noah Cameron's at 92. Like, I actually think like Noah Cameron probably throws harder, or at least is throwing harder this year than Andy Pettitte did. All right, and I wouldn't call Andy Pettitte a soft tosser. He was a really smart pitcher who was better than his fastball because he threw a bunch of other pitches. But is Noah Cameron really that different in terms of his repertoire from Andy Pettitte? I could think of somebody listening to this show right now who lives in New York City who's probably going to send me some furious texts when he hears that comp.
That's all right. Everybody else listening to the podcast will have your back.
That's why I did that. But I'm just saying the data is the data. Like 92.3 is actually, he's not that soft a tosser. It's not it's not his calling card. But if you tell me a guy who is a lefty who throws 92 and his fastball is like his fourth best pitch, like Noah Cameron has the ingredients to be a successful pitcher for a long time to come. So that's one thing I want to say. The other thing is, like, one of the reasons why we've been saying this all along is because when, he started his career with that incredible stretch where he was giving up like, one hit a game, but his strikeout to walk data wasn't really great, right? So we look like, okay, he's getting lucky even in the moment. That's not the case anymore.
No.
In the month of July, after today's start, 1 walk and 6 strikeouts today. In the month of July, he has 5 walks, 1 intentional. So take that one out. 4 walks and 33 strikeouts in 29 innings. He's given up more runs this month. His ERA has gone up slightly. Actually, has it? Yeah, I guess it has, but barely. But like his strikeout to walk data is fantastic. And you add it all up, he's got 14 starts in his career now. And his ERA after today is 2.44. Like, this is exceptional territory. I don't think he's going to get to be a qualifying pitcher, 162 innings, because he's at 81 right now. So like he would literally have to get 81 more innings. Then he's probably going to get 11 more starts. So that's not going to happen. But like, do you know who the last pitcher was in the American League to qualify for the ERA title and have an ERA within 50 points of Noah Cameron, 294 or less? Do you want to know who the last pitcher with a 294 ERA in the American League is? A rookie, I should say, is a rookie who qualified for the ERA title?
Not left-handed, just in either one.
Any pitcher in the American League who threw 162 innings and had an ERA of under 2.95.
Well, he's not going to get to 162 innings, but
he's not. I'm just to give you an idea of how.
No, I'm trying to think.
I'll give you a hint. My favorite player of all time.
Who's your favorite player of all time? I don't know that I've ever had that conversation with you. Brett Saberhagen?
Kevin Appier.
Kevin Appier. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I do know that.
Kevin Appier, 1990. Still, I had to find a way to work Kevin Appier into this. Into this podcast. But literally, last qualifying rookie to be within even 50 points of Noah Cameron's 2.44 ERA. But even if we just look at guys with, like, he's probably going to get to about 25 starts. If he makes 11 more starts in the American League, the last guy to have an ERA of better than his 2.44 ERA, I believe, and make 25 starts or more is Mark Fidrich in 1976 when he led the league in ERA. One more fun stat for you. What American League pitcher since in the expansion era with 14 or more starts, because Noah Cameron made his 14th start today, what rookie pitcher in the American League with 14 or more starts had the lowest ERA of the last 50 years?
I'll
give you another hint.
Fernando?
Yeah. Huh? No, American League pitcher.
Give me a hint.
I'll give you a hint. Maybe my least favorite Royal, but he didn't play for the Royals. It's at least favorite Royals coach.
The pitching coach. Yeah.
Cal Eldred.
Cal Eldred, yeah.
In 1992, at a 1.79 ERA in 14 starts for the Milwaukee Brewers. Helped me win a Stratomatic League that year. So I always had a soft spot for him until recent times, believe it or not.
Okay.
So anyway, the point is Noah Cameron is having really, really, really good season. And I do wish he would get more attention. Part of me wishes he doesn't, because if he finishes first or second in the Rookie of the Year vote, we had this discussion with Jack Caglianone. I don't think we have to worry about Jack Caglianone finishing top 2. But if Noah Cameron finishes top 2, he'll get a full year of service time. And just selfishly as a fan, obviously.
So is it top 2 or top 3?
Top 2. It's weird. It's top 2. You get the full year of service time. But if you start the season on the opening day roster, you have to win Rookie of the Year to get the prospect promotion incentive pick for your team, which might happen if Jacob Wilson wins Rookie of the Year for the A's. However, he's been passed by his teammate, Nick Kurtz. So the fact that Nick Kurtz is crushing the ball now might actually cost the A's a draft pick, because he didn't start the year on the opening day roster. Jacob Wilson did. So anyway, just something interesting. But right now, I mean, to me, Wilson and Kurtz are probably top two in the minds of the voters. I'd love to see Cameron sneak into third, and Park wouldn't hurt the Royals. But if he keeps this up, like, I do think that the conversation about Noah Cameron has to change, because he's doing it's looking less and less like a fluke with every passing start. I mean, today he started the game by loading the bases with nobody out and got out of the inning without giving up a run. Like, I can't say enough about what he's doing. Like, in the year, especially like as healthy as the rotation was last year. I mean, this is this is the other side of that. And that's why we thought last year was such an incredible occurrence. Is Reagans and now Bubic, both injured. Seth Lugo was on the IL for a while, and without Noah Cameron, this team wouldn't be sniffing a wild card spot. And so, give him credit.
Hunter Harvey is back. We touched on that a little bit earlier. Would you trade him as soon as you could? Like, the deadline. You mentioned the fact that there's only one more start,
Right.
but
I just worry
if he can finish, would you turn around and unload him?
It's a way to hedge your bets. Like, yeah, if you're the Royals and you're going to stick with Lugo and you still want to maybe sell a little bit, like I wouldn't be averse to selling him, but it really comes down to what will somebody offer you, and if he makes one more appearance and he was terrible when you traded for him at the deadline last year because of his back, and then missed 3 months. Like, it's just hard to imagine a team's like, yeah, we're going to give you a real future asset for that guy. If you get the offer, yes, but at this point, I feel like
the answer is no, because the upside of what he can be for you is still better than what you're going to get in the trade.
Well, if you're the Royals and you actually believe he's healthy and willing to help you, you probably value him more than any other team, because any other team is speculating about his availability. You actually have real confidence in his health. Like, if you actually are confident in his health, no other team is going to be able to justify that internally based on 2 outings from him. And so you're probably going to value him more and you're going to keep him.
I want to hit one more thing, and then we'll finish up with a little bit more conversation about Seth Lugo and what to expect from him over the life of this contract extension. But let's talk about Jack Caglianone going on the injured list. What are the odds that this is because he's running around in the outfield?
Man, I mean, it's really an impossible question to answer for sure. I imagine it increases the risk. But to me, the main like worst case scenario I had about him playing the outfield, and learning on the fly, was like a collision with the wall, with another player. Like, that's the serious thing. Pulling a hammy, I mean, it's not good, but it could happen running the bases. It could have happened playing first base. I mean, it could have happened anywhere. Assuming this is a 2 to 3 week thing and not a season ender, it's a risk I think you have to be willing to take to put a guy in a position where he's going to help you more. It doesn't make me second guess the decision to play him out there at all. Let's put it that way.
It does me, right? I don't like him being out there to begin with.
Fair enough, exactly.
But I will admit, Keith Law was a guy who opened my eyes to it. He has been better than I ever would have thought he would have been. I still don't think it's ideal. I think at some point you got to just, first base DH is the realm of he and Vinny Pasquantino, because I'm not in favor of trading Vinny Pasquantino. And Curtis Siebel called him kind of the heart of this team. And I think that's right. And you see the way he really is kind of he's the go-to guy for quotes in the clubhouse. He answers all the questions when they're losing, which is a valuable thing for other guys to not have to do it. Then he'll stand out there and answer the questions. So I don't want to see Vinny Pasquantino going anywhere. I don't love it, but they got to get to the point to where they, first of all, develop outfielders. Okay. And then, this can't be a work in progress. I mean, these ideas like Jonathan India, what do we like? It didn't work. He's back in the infield. Like, you got to start knowing what guys are. Now, Jonathan India, I know, came over, and so you didn't have a history with him. And Jack Caglianone was what, now just a little over a year in the organization, but there's just got to be a better plan. And as you get to where you're in year 3, 4, 5, really year 4 or 5, the pieces need to fit together, right? We need to not be watching MJ Melendez called up to continue to try to play in the outfield. Although, again, I'm hearing, his defense is much better now. Oh, is it? Or did he go back to AAA where everybody says everybody's great defensively? Every time somebody's in AAA, they're great defensively. And then they come up and they're not, right, when they get to the big leagues. That, and then one more thing that occurred that I forgot to put on the rundown, but when will they learn to run the bases?
Man.
I mean, they got away with it in the first game and they still won, but they continue to do some really dumb things on the bases.
It's incredibly aggravating, especially when, a guy who's like in the game for his speed. Like you're talking about Tyler Tolbert getting
that was one
picked
of John
off.
Rave also got what did he get? What did he do? He did something. I'm drawing a blank now. I know I tweeted 2 of them. There were 2 of them like back to back. I'm like, what is going on? I'll look it up and see here. But go ahead. But
it's like, on the one hand, it's one of the things that the Royals seem to do worst. Like it's one of the biggest criticisms you could have if you're going to talk about criticizing Matt Quatraro, that the team is not doing better on the bases. But on the other hand, like he gets picked off second base with Emmanuel Clase on the mound and a 1-run lead for the Guardians. And the Royals, the 3 batters who saw Emmanuel Clase in a game that was just going back and forth, and the Royals were 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position in the game. And they go walk. They walk off Clase. Another walk. Ray walks. Luke Maley walks, and then Jonathan India hits a walk-off 3-run homer. Like the resilience of this team to overcome unbelievably bad performance with runners in scoring position all game, and then having your fastest player who starts the bottom of the 10th on second base picked off on a just poor base running move. He committed to third base too soon. That to be able to overcome that does speak to the fact that with Matt Quatraro, this team, every time you think the momentum is against them, they find a way to turn it back, which is an argument that momentum doesn't really mean anything. But it also means I feel like that they are well coached to not give up, whether it's within a game or within a season. That the team's morale remains high.
I want to apologize to John Rave about making a base running mistake because he didn't. But I do want to say, like, get a bunt down.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Yes.
Couldn't get a bunt down.
The small.
And I said, John Rave is 27 years old and is just getting his first chance at the big leagues. Somewhere around 24, it's got to set in that you aren't a top prospect and you have to perfect all the little things. Rave needs to be able to get a bunt down every time. Every time. Like that, you have to do the little things. Like that they have to get to that point. I don't know. I don't like bunting to begin with, but if you're going to call for it, get it down.
Yeah. I mean, you need to be able to do the little things, but the reality is this. Teams that are more talented tend to be better at the little things as well as the big things. And so when I hear about a team talking about how we got to work on the fundamentals, to me, that's actually very much a red flag. Because the problem, if you're not good at the fundamentals, the problem probably isn't that you're like terrible at teaching fundamentals. The problem is probably that you just don't have the talent.
Right.
I mean, this is such. I mean, just for the dark ages of the Royals from like 2004 to 2007, the worst era. All we would hear about is they're working on fundamentals, and I'm like, your problem isn't the fundamentals. The problem is your team is so bad in terms of talent. You're not just bad at hitting home runs. You're probably also bad at putting bunts down and stealing bases and everything else. So there may be some of that too. I mean, John Rave is a fringe major leaguer. I'm hoping he proves us wrong with his new swing. Tyler Tolbert right now is a pinch runner with dreams of glory. He's Terrence Gore with dreams of being Gerard Dyson. And that home run he hit the other day was exciting for that reason. But he's not an everyday guy at this point. He though, because his role is so specific to base running, he has to use better judgment in that position.
Yeah, get picked off.
But this season has just been, when it comes to base running, this season has just been a nightmare. Like they're one of the worst base running teams in baseball this year. And these are the things they've really got to be sharp. If they have no margin of error if they want to make the playoffs. The next 2 months of the season, they really have to play at their absolute best. Their best ability level for the next 55 games. Hope that they get really lucky in terms of no more injuries, because they're one more injury away from just falling apart. I mean, Bobby Witt has a hangnail. It's over. So let's just. I'm glad that the next 2 months still mean something, like that. We're not just packing it in just from the standpoint of the games matter. Like there was definitely a scenario where this weekend they get swept and they trade Seth Lugo, and we're excited about the future potentially, but like the next 2 months are just kind of a denouement. Like just it's anticlimactic. The games don't matter. The next 2 months will probably matter. They're not going to be mathematically eliminated on Labor Day. Let's put it that way.
Let's close with this. 23-14 with a 2.98 ERA, a WHIP of 1.089, a FIP, a fielding independent pitching of 361. That is what Seth Lugo has been for the Kansas City Royals since he came to town. What will he be for the next 2+ years?
I've made this comparison before, and now that where he's actually sticking around, I think I'm going to make it again because I really like it. He's 35 years old. Age 34, 35, Seth Lugo. You just said those numbers. Well, here's Zach Greinke at ages 34 and 35. A 3.07 ERA and a 3.46 FIP. Pitching, in a higher offense era like 5 years ago, I think. And was worth 9.4 wins above replacement in those 2 seasons. Right now, Seth Lugo's at 8.6 with 2 months left to go. He's very similar to what Zach Greinke was. Maybe a little better. His velocity is actually still higher. I mean, he's lost half a mile on his fastball this year, but his average fastball velocity is around 91.5. Greinke was down around 90.5 during those 2 years. The 2 years after that, when Greinke was 36 and 37, because those are the 2 years we're getting. One of those was the pandemic year, so it's kind of hard to evaluate. He pitched, he had a 4.03 ERA, but in 67 innings, he had a 2.80 FIP. He had 9 walks and 67 strikeouts. So the first year, his age 36 year, he was vintage Zach Greinke. In 2021, the year before he joined the Royals, this is his last year with Houston, he had a 4.16 ERA. He went 11 and 171 innings, 120 strikeouts, 36 walks. He was, a number 3 to number 4 pitcher. And I think that's very reasonable. I think Seth Lugo is going to be an average to slightly above average pitcher at the end of this contract in those 2 years. Now, if he stays healthy, he'll get that third year. But if he stays healthy, then you're probably wanting him around for his age 38 season anyway. Like, I don't see a precipitous decline here, even if he loses some velocity, because he's already proven that his success is not due to elite velocity. Like, I feel like he's going to age gracefully and probably won't be this good next year, because last year he wasn't lucky. This year he's been a little bit lucky in terms of his ERA. Like, there is some signs of decline if you look closely, but mild decline. And so I think he will be, I don't think he will be, ideally would not be one of the world's 2 best starters next year.
Well, are you a believer in FIP?
I mean,
because FIP
is partially
a full run.
Yeah.
So that's the warning sign.
But I will say the main reason for that is because his home run rate has spiked. And the main reason for that, I mean, not main reason, but like, he gave up 4 home runs in Yankee Stadium in one game. Like, that one game. Sometimes home run spikes are due to, bad luck with just fly balls in the air. His xFIP, which normalizes for your ground ball rate, because your ground ball rate actually is a better predictor of how many home runs you'll give up next year than your home runs this year would. But if you look at xFIP, his xFIP last year was higher than his actual FIP, but his xFIP this year is lower. So in other words, instead of going up a full run, his xFIP has only gone up about a quarter of a run this year. And xFIP is actually a better future pitching indicator than regular FIP. And that's the one I typically use. And that's why I'm like, yeah, he's not as good. It's interesting. Both years, his actual ERA has been much better. Maybe he's been lucky, or maybe he's, his ability to throw 9 different pitches allows him to, beat the metrics a little bit. He's a little bit better with runners in scoring position. He fields his position very well. Obviously, that's also a big thing. I mean, he did win the Gold Glove last year. Let's not forget that. So there are reasons to think that, his ERA will be a little bit better than his FIP or his xFIP. But I think the decline is there, but it's mild. It's not a full run. I'm not too worried about that.
Which FIP do you use? Whichever one helps tell your story. Right? That's what I'm hearing there.
Well, you hear what you want. I do use xFIP more than both. And honestly, Sierra, which is another one, situation independent ERA, I want to say, might even be better than both of them. So there's a lot of different ways you can split up the numbers, but I've always preferred xFIP to FIP.
When it comes to the numbers of your insurance, David Starnes Allstate Insurance has you covered, serving the entire Kansas City metro area. Give Dave and his crew a call, 816-781-7331, or visit them online. They do a fantastic job. I know. I can speak from firsthand experience. Our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And if you've been hurt in an accident, text HURT to 22222. Our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, and voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. Call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-HURT. That's 4878. If you've been hurt in an accident. For the good doctor, Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner Podcast.